So we've been on MongoDB for a while now. We've been able to connect to our MongoDB, even define a schema and create a model, and in turn create a record and insert that into our database. So we're going to move in a step further, which is dropping records from our database. In our previous video, we noticed that whenever we run our test command, a new user is created. And yes, this is a problem in a test environment. This is because, for instance, when we write a test where we insert a user into our collection and maybe do a search over that collection and ask does someone with the name of Mary exist in our collection, the test will always pass because whether or not the latest insert happened, there is already a record bearing that name. To fix this, we are going to be doing a cleanup for our use case. We are going to modify our test code such that we will be dropping the records in our collection before running another test. So we are going to go to our test helper where we'll be creating a hook. And the hook is basically a function that is executed before any test is executed. So let's define it before each hook. And it goes like this: before each takes in a fat arrow function. So, and we are going to refer to our specific collection, and we can do that by writing mongoose dot connection dot collection dot then dot drop. So this is just basically going to drop the records in our users collection before each any test runs. Another thing to note is whenever Mongoose tries to reach out to MongoDB, it takes some time. So we have to figure out how to tell mocha to wait for Mongoose to complete the drop operation before it continues. So the first thing to do here is the drop method accepts a callback function that will be executed once it is done dropping our collection of users. Another thing we can do is adding a done callback. This callback tells mocha, hey, when I call this function, it means I'm done with all the logic I have inside my for each. You can now run the test. So we are going to add a done callback here like this. And then inside our drop, we're also going to have a fat arrow function, and we're going to call that done callback just like this. So now that I've added the done callback function in our drop, we can now check if our expected result is what we are having. So we're going to run our file again, and we expect that whenever we run this, notice that we have 3 records here. So what we want is whenever we run our test, it clears our record. So if I run my file, I'm expecting that I'm going to have only one user here with the name Mary. So I'm going to go ahead and run. And alright, there's a tiny omission here. It's meant to be collections, right? So let's quickly run our file again, and everything works fine. So let's get to MongoDB compass and then refresh using command R, and then you can see now we've been able to drop all our records and we're just only having the current record in our collection. So another thing that I want to do is I want to add some assertion to test if our insertion works. Assuming we don't have a GUI, right? We want to write some kind of test to know if actually our record was saved to our database, because when you're actually working with a real application, you won't always, when a user registers, you might not even know. So for you to go to your GUI and check if the user's record came in, so it's not added up. So we had to like kind of write a test to be assured from our end that yes, whenever this test passes, it means this user was registered to our database. So to do this, we are going to make use of promise. And in our rate test, the save callback returns a promise. And when it resolves, it means our record is now inside our database. To kind of get notified when our operation completes, we will add a .then statement, and we're going to rely on the is new property of mongoose. We're just going to come down here and have a dot then. and it's going to take a fat array function just like this. For this new property of mongoose, whenever we create a new instance of a model and we've not really entered that particular instance into our database, when we check it against is new, it's going to return is true because it's still sitting in memory. It hasn't been added to the database yet. But whenever we test it against a record that has already been entered into the database, it's going to return false. So with this property, we can assert if our record has been entered into the database or not. So how we can do that is this: assert. Then since we already have our instance here, I'm going to just write Mary dot is new, just like this. So this returns a boolean. So if Mary is sitting around in memory, it's going to return true. But if Mary has already been added to database, it's going to return false. So, but for our assert to really pass, we need a truth value. In that case, since we're expecting a false from this new statement, if Mary exists, it will result to false, and that proves Mary exists, and we are going to negate our value using the not notation, right? So if Mary is already in a database, it is false, and that really is the result we want. But then our assert needs a true for it to pass. So we're just going to use the not operator here. So we're also going to use the done callback here. Similar to how we use it before each, we're also going to add a done callback to our each statement right here. We're going to call it after our assertion. So we're just going to say done just like this. So, and also note, this done callback is always available to before each and each block. So now that we're done with writing our test, let's test to see if everything works fine. So to run it again, I'm just going to do npm run test, and everything works really fine, right? So right now, we really don't need to go back to our GUI to check if everything works fine every time. So once our test passes, we are really sure that we have our expected results. So in our next lecture, we are going to be writing MongoDB queries and learn how to find users in our users collection. So see you on the next one.